full.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Chair.
All right, I was ready 30 seconds ago. Now I'm kind of stuck. All right. Aloha, good morning, everyone. It's now 10:01 a.m. Mahalo for joining us this morning for the HTA's Administrative and Audit Standing Committee meeting of Monday, April 7th, 2025. As a reminder, today's meeting is being held on our Zoom platform. In accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, HTA will establish a remote viewing area for members of the public and board members to view and participate in meetings. Are there any individuals in the remote viewing area at the offices of HTA? Seeing none.
No.
No, I answered to that question, no. Some quick housekeeping reminders before we get started. For attendees, testimony may be provided through the question and answer function within the Zoom. If you have a question or would like to testify, we ask that you please use the Q&A feature. Our team will be monitoring that Q&A for your testimony and our questions throughout the meeting. At the direction of the chair, we may also unmute you to provide an opportunity to ask the question or provide testimony using the audio functionality of Zoom. As we move from one agenda item to the next, the chair will pause to allow attendees the opportunity to provide testimony. We would encourage you to please be prepared as we near the conclusion of each agenda item, as we will move to the next agenda item after a brief pause. Should you wish to provide testimony, we will recognize you and you may then proceed once unmuted. Let's see. So at this point, I'll call the meeting to order. Can we please do a roll call?
Okay, we'll do. Yes, at this time, I will be conducting the roll call for this afternoon's meeting. Members, as I call your name, please unmute your microphone and confirm your presence. Also identify any other persons who may be with you at this time. Chair James McCully.
Present and alone.
Hello, Vice Chair David Arakawa.
Present and alone.
Hello, Member Todd Apo.
I'm here and all by myself.
Hello, Member Mahina Paishan.
Present and I am alone.
Mahalo, Member James Tokioka.
Present and in the boardroom of Hawaii Tourism Authority.
Mahalo, and Member Mike White.
Present and alone.
All present, we have quorum, Chair.
Thank you very much, Talon. All right, let's move on to agenda item 3. We need a motion to approve the minutes for the February 14th, 2025 Administrative and Audit Standing Committee. May I have a motion to adopt? Thank you. I see David Arakawa raising his hand.
So moved.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Hearing, who was
Second.
that? Oh, thank you, Jim. Thank you for that. All right. Any discussion on the minutes? Have you had a chance to review them? And do you see any corrections, modifications, or additions to make? Hearing and seeing none, I'd like to call for a roll call. Please, Talon.
James McCully,
Aye.
David Arakawa,
Aye.
Todd Apo.
Aye.
Mahina Paishan,
Aye.
James Tokioka,
Aye.
Mike White.
Aye.
Mahalo, the recommendation is adopted.
Okay, thank you, Talon. Next, our agenda item 4. This is the discussion and or action on HTA's FY 2024. Yeah, this is the right one. 2024 Independent Financial Audit Report presented at the March 27th, 2025 regular board meeting. The first item A was a presentation by Mr. Kondo. I don't believe he's available. Is that the case?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see him on the roster of attendees. So absent Mr. Kondo, we will skip the presentation by Mr. Kondo. Item B, discussion on issues raised by the fiscal year 2024 HTA Independent Financial Audit Report.
Chair.
Yes, please.
Chair,
Sorry.
are you okay if I share a bit of sort of what I've tried to do since our board meeting in regards to this matter?
I think that is a great way to begin the discussion, Chair Apo. So go ahead, Todd. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and thanks, members. So since our last board meeting discussion that had at the Tuesday special meeting, the Thursday board meeting, I've spent a bunch of time last week just getting the documents, talking to people, talking to staff, talking with Convention Center to get a good picture of what happened. So I want to report to this committee, given this agenda item, on what that is and at least where I get to from a conclusion standpoint. So, okay, so we're talking about, based on the comment in the financial audit, we're talking about the two events that were held at the Convention Center, one by Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association, the second by Pacific Century Fellows. So looking at the documents, talking to people, here's where what I've concluded. One, both events were contracted with the HTA space request form, which went from HTA staff to HCC, Hawaiian Convention Center staff. Okay, so to be clear, neither organization requested or contracted for the space. It was done on the HTA space request. In looking through the documents, the CEO, HTA CEO, has the authority and discretion to hold HTA events at the convention center through the use of that HTA space request form, which is what happened, right? If you look on that form on the second page, those types of functions can range from HTA board and committee meetings to HTA program meetings to HTA events for industry and public. And there's also one box for meetings initiated by external contractors. I believe in this situation, for the meetings that were held as they were described to us in the two meetings that we held, is that these were HTA events for industry and the public, which is allowed for under the form. Okay. So how they were implemented, given that they went to HCC on the HTA space request form, Hawaii Convention Center serviced the events, and is normal practice with events that come through that form. There is no charge for space use, and the charging for food and beverage is charged from Convention Center to HTA through a year-end reconciliation. Okay. I say bring that up because that explains why, as was discussed in the meetings, that no invoices were sent to either of the two entities, the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association, nor the Pacific Century Fellows. The Convention Center serviced the events and charged HTA for the food and beverage in accordance with normal practice under that form. Okay. So that's what happened. Now, as you look back at the financial audit language, it talks about, so I'm pulling it back up to make sure I have it in front of me. It talks about discounted or complimentary services to the two organizations. To me, that's not an accurate depiction of what happened, given that the HTA use form was the way in which this was done under the authority of the CEO. The difference I see is if one of those entities had contacted HCC and contracted for those services, but were then given a discount, that would have been more in line with the language that we see in the audit language. So that's how I see the reconciliation of the language. Understand the outcome is a bit similar, but the language is different and this form was different. So conclusion-wise, before I get to one, I believe the CEO had the authority and discretion to identify HTA events and use the HTA request form in order to do those, which happened here. I understand there can be a difference of opinion as to whether these two events should have been HTA events, but I don't see an abuse of discretion from what was done in deciding to use these forms. Therefore, I guess the other thing happened, therefore, two entities were not charged. After our Tuesday board meeting, those two entities, HLTA and Pacific Century Fellows, requested invoices for the food and beverage for those two events. Convention Center has provided them with invoices. Those are in the process of being paid and being worked out between Convention Center and those entities. So that if there was some reason that those entities were supposed to pay, that is being taken care of. The last thing I'll say, and this goes to the note that's in the audit, is that, as we all know, just that reminder, right, that if we as board members or staff are connected with any events that are going on at the convention center, we all just need to be careful in regards to how that is done and the steps that are taken in order to accomplish that. And I think we'll talk more about those reminders as we go forward, because we do know that we need to, we've all talked about this as the board, that we need to review what happened, figure out where there are potential gaps in the process or policy, and fix them. And I think, as has been reported by staff to the board, there have been some changes in that policy already. And I think we take the rest of these learnings and we can work with staff on whether additional policy and procedure changes should be set in order to deal with any future events or requests going forward. I will stop there, but also I'll close by saying, Chair, that to me, this should put to bed the questions of these two events that we're dealing with at Tuesday and Thursday, special and regular board meetings. I'd really like us to be able to focus on correcting going forward, learning from what happened, and move on. So I'll stop there, Chair. Thank you.
Well, okay, and thank you, Chair. And I see a hand raised, David Arakawa.
Hi, thank you, Chair McCully, and Chair Poole. I take issue with the chair making a finding that there's no abuse of discretion. I think the audit speaks for itself. I don't think that this board should be, if that's our position, that there's no abuse of discretion, we should challenge the audit, formally challenge the audit. And I don't think we should challenge the audit. I think we should learn from it, like Chair Poole said, and move on, right? But I strongly object to any proclamation that there's no abuse of discretion based on a private review, one person's review. So I strongly object to that. I was not interviewed. I was not asked anything. I think I'm the most familiar with this audit and with this matter. The other thing is, it was glossed over in the first paragraph of this audit matter. And when the auditor spoke, he talked about individuals affiliated with the authority or organizations with whom individuals affiliated with the authority are associated. So it is the superior asking a subordinate to use of the facility. And that's in the very first paragraph. That was never mentioned in the review. And I think that is our most troubling issue, right? And we've addressed that. And I think we have policies and procedures in place. And but I really feel that the public and the board should not gloss over that and not even mention it, right? In this, and we should not be proclaiming that there's no abuse of discretion. And in the future, I think we do have policies and procedures to address that. So I agree with everything else Chair Uphold said. I agree with everything else Chair Uphold said. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Sure.
David. Oh, yes.
Chair McCully.
Yeah, Jimmy.
Okay. I agree with Chair Uphold's assessment of all of this. And I, obviously I was one of the vocal people that in the last two meetings. And I think the best thing for us to do now is to move forward, as Chair Uphold said, because no matter what happens, we need to learn from what happened, and we need, and I think Chair Uphold said we need to change the processes or review the processes so that it never happens again. I think that we can all agree that it shouldn't have happened, and we should have had better safeguards in place. And that's that's on HTA. And we fixed that and we move forward, but to continue, I'm sure the auditor is going to be watching this maybe. Or gonna be hearing about this, and I'm sure he'll respond to what Chair Apo said, and that's his prerogative. So, but at this point, I think enough has been said for us to know what to do next. And I think it's important and incumbent upon us just to move forward and, you know, be very, very cautious from the board's standpoint, and I think Chair Poe said that, and from the staff standpoint. If you see something that doesn't look right, then you should bring it to the attention of the board chair and whoever the president and CEO is. And I think that's the position that we should take going forward. And I'm like Chair Poe said, I'm ready to move on.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. David, are you going to leave your hand up?
Oh,
Aren't you
sorry.
running out of blood in your arm?
sorry.
Yeah. Todd, do you have your, oh no, Mahina's hand was up, I think, first. Mahina, please go on.
Thank you, Chair McCauley. Actually, I think Chair Opo's hand was up before me, so I'm not sure.
Oh.
Okay. He's letting me go. Thank you.
Okay. My bad.
So thank you to Chair Apo as well as Vice Chair of this committee, Dave Arcall, for their comments. I'm in agreement with what everyone has said in terms of let's move on. Let's tighten up policies and procedures, look at the gap areas and strengthen them. Where in addition to that, I remain concerned, right, in how this will unfold in terms of possible perception of in the way that HTA is handling communications. The possible perception that perhaps there could be concerns of possible defamation or things of that nature. And possible targeting of certain individuals, whether it be at the staff level or at the board level. So what I'm saying is that I want us to be, I agree with what everybody's saying. Let's continue to tighten our policies and procedures. And in addition to that, let's be very mindful and careful for how we are messaging and communicating. And there's a lot of different perspectives that we need to be wary of. And I don't want us also to put ourselves as board members in service of, the public. I don't want us to also put us in a vulnerable position where we could also be accused for possible defamation or things of that nature. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mahina. Todd, certainly your hand is up now.
Okay, losing blood there too, so thank you. Just more of an administrative note, one thing I forgot to mention is I know that there are a set of requests from board members for documents or information in regards to this discussion. I was talking with staff. I said, hey, let's just compile that list for now and not try to run around in the last 3 days of last week to try to put all that together. I will work with staff to put together that list of requests and get those documents together in the most efficient manner so that can be conveyed over to this committee and ultimately to the board if that's desired. So just want to let everyone know that is coming. That's not being forgotten about as we move forward on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. David, is your hand back up?
No. I cannot take that hand down. So
Okay, so then for the rest of the meeting, I'm going to ignore you.
yeah, or I'll raise my hand.
Presuming
So trying to,
your hand.
yeah,
Yeah,
trying to,
yeah.
okay.
You can try to flash me in other ways.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yeah, and as the chair, what I took away ultimately was the last recommendation from the auditor, which was that management review the propriety of year-end client proposed financial reporting entries, and that those entries accurately reflect the balances. And what I'll say to that, and it kind of leads us into our next agenda item, is the importance of having a strong CAO and a strong CEO, because it's about management practices. The board, this is not a management board. At this point, we're not hardly a governing board. So it's important that we have strong presence in our administrative staff. And the fact of the matter is, and it's no specific criticism of our previous CEO, but he was sitting on two responsibilities, CAO and CEO simultaneously, and that's a very difficult set of responsibilities. So with that, if there's no further discussion, I will close this matter until we get into it further, as perhaps the state auditor, Mr. Kondo, returns to our presence and makes it known what his advice to us is. So that'll close off the discussion on item 4, and we'll move on to agenda item 5. So agenda item 5, wait a second, I've misplaced my agenda when I was looking up all this other stuff. So agenda item 5, presentation, discussion, and action on HTA personnel and leadership. First item is the discussion, evaluation, and action relating to the resignation of interim president and CEO Daniel Nahoapi'i and the proposed interim president and CEO Chief Administrative Officer Caroline Anderson. As a result, other personnel discussion and action may be required per bylaws. I won't read them out, but it could lead to executive. Yes. Todd?
Chair, quick statement, and I would like to move us into executive session because I do believe this deals with both personnel issues as well as legal issues that may affect the authority. But I will say before we requesting that I have been meeting, I went to a staff meeting last week, Thursday. I also met with HTA leadership individuals separately in discussions to try to understand the various perspectives on the situation raised by this agenda item, including the resignation letter by the previous CEO. But in order to discuss that, I would like to move that we move into executive session and would request that John Cole articulate those reasons for that, or the legal backup for being able to do that.
My understanding at this point is that we'd like to go into executive session under HRS section 92.5A2, which would permit an executive session to consider the hire or evaluation of an officer or employee where matters of affecting privacy will be involved. And A4, which is to consult with the board's attorneys on questions and issues pertaining to the board's powers, duties, privileges, and liabilities.
Thank you, AG Cole. All right, so there's a motion on the floor to go into executive session. Is there a second?
I'll second, Jim.
All right, thank you
David.
for that
And
second.
Chair, I'll specify the request to go into executive session will be with the board members only, along with the AG, no staff members.
Thank you for that clarification. So would there be any staff members required to maintain our Zoom conversation? Or the people in the,
I'll be helping with the Zoom,
Yeah,
but then I'll exit the room once everyone's all set up.
and text me when you're Paul and we'll come back.
all right,
Okay?
thank you. All right, well, at this time then, are we going to sign off and dial in another number?
Yeah, so.
We just need to
I
take a
just
vote.
sent everyone-
Yeah,
Oh.
apologies. Yes, we do need to see if there's a majority of the board that agrees. All right, so is there any other discussion on going into executive session? Hearing none, I'd like to call for the vote.
James McCulley,
Aye.
David Arakawa.
Aye.
Tyler Poe.
Aye.
Lena Paishon,
Aye.
James Tokioka.
Aye.
Mike White.
Aye.
The vote passed, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. At this time, we will, I'm sorry, is there a conversation?
No,
No.
Oh, okay.
We're
So
just
Sorry.
exiting the room.
Yeah, we're exiting.
Yeah, yeah.
at this time, this meeting will go into a recess and the board members will reconvene under the link that we've been sent for our executive session Zoom. So see you shortly.
Yep,
Macaulay,
so I sent all the members links for the executive session.
thank you.
Then
so
I'll
we'll
be,
get off of this and look for your link, right?
yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, are we all back? Let's see. We have 34 participants.
Yep.
I think I have all of the committee members except Mr. Tokioka.
Do they need to do anything back in the boardroom? I mean, I see some of the staff on individually.
Oh, yeah. We have to notify them. Didn't they ask to be texted when we were done?
Yes, I think it was Isaac.
I texted Talon, since Talon was doing the controls.
To executive session.
Are we, let's see, attendees. The HTA boardroom's open. Terry's with us.
How bad is that?
All right. Okay, I'm gonna resume our regularly scheduled meeting. All right, at this time, I'd like to bring our meeting back to order. John Cole, could you please advise us of our executive session result?
Yes, and we were in executive session on agenda item 5A. There was extensive discussion on the interim president and CEO issues. There was a motion, and a second, which was voted on, but the motion did not pass, so therefore no action was taken. And the motion was on a recommendation for an interim president and CEO.
All right, thank you, John. Members of the committee, I appreciate your time and efforts and the robust debate that we were afforded. And Todd, do you have your hand up?
I do. Just a real quick statement to pick up where I left as we went into executive session. Given what John just announced in regards to executive session, just so the committee is aware, I will continue the efforts in having discussions with various people, and whether we have another committee meeting or at the latest at the May 1 board meeting, if that's not moved earlier, we'll come back with a firm recommendation to move us forward on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Todd, for fleshing that out, and to the public's benefit that's observing this meeting. I'd like to thank you for your patience, attendees, and at this time, I will adjourn our Administrative and Audit Committee for April 7th, 2025. Mahalo plenty. Thank you. Yes, David, goodbye.
All everyone, I'll be ending the webinar.
Thank you, Tal.
Yep, you're welcome.